All right, now that we've made the base, we've extruded these walls, I'm going to show you how we're going to put these two pieces together. So I just want to go over the tools that I have in front of me. I have my knife, which I'm going to use to cut out the base. I have a little brayer, which I'm going to use as a mini rolling pin to join the walls to the base at a nice 90-degree angle. I have my paintbrush for my slip, and I have my scoring rib to rough up that surface, and I have some slip to connect those two pieces. So the first thing I need to do is I need to prepare the blank wood sling form. So this first form, I have all this extra clay that's left behind. Now when I join these two, I want a nice 45-degree angle. So I'm going to actually use my knife, and I'm not going to hold it at this straight up and down, but I'm going to hold it just like I would a pencil. I want these two pieces to go together just like a picture frame. And I have a little illustration that will help you better understand this and the correct way to join two pieces of clay. So I'm going to make this first cut at a nice 45-degree angle underneath. I'm going to cut this underneath the form, and I'm going to follow this line that you can see that was left behind on the edge of the form. All this is extra, so I'm just going to go past, and I can remove these pieces. So I would go ahead and make sure all of these sections are cut first. I'm actually going to return this finished piece of clay back to its original form while I join the walls and the base together. This piece of clay right here has been sitting for about a day now, and it is very soft, but still has a little bit of leather hard strength. So if you notice, the angle goes down. It is not straight across, and that's going to accept a nice piece that also has a nice 45-degree angle, just like the walls. So before I go ahead and attach the base with those extruded walls that I made, I need to transfer this back to its original form. So I'm going to take this, and I have some foam sheets that I can place right in here, and that will just support this. I'm going to go ahead and use 2 while I attach the walls. So now I don't lose that nice curve that I had created, and I have something to push against. So as you can see, this illustration about when you're assembling slabs has a good, a better, and a best, and also a little description and what those 3 different versions require. Our goal is to create the strongest joint possible to ensure that the clay will not crack or break when attached. So if I look at the good, you can notice that I just cut them at a 90-degree angle and I slipped and scored them together. They should stay. The better, if you notice, I cut them at a 45-degree angle. And the reason I do that is because there's actually more surface area when I cut a slab at a 45-degree angle rather than a 90. And the best is when I do all of those things, but then add a small coil in the seam to reinforce that joint. And that's what I'm going to do when I join the base and the wall together right now. So we're going to resume our construction. I have my original form in the mold with some foam supporting it. I have the extrusions that I made earlier, and I'm going to go ahead and attach these today. So whenever I join 2 pieces of clay, I need to remember that every time I make sure I add slip to the entire form. I'm going to go ahead and put that nicely. I'm going to put a little bit thicker all over the edge of this form. Now I always slip first. And the reason I slip first is because a lot of this slip will be removed when I score. And if I score first and then I add slip, I fill in all those gaps and all that rough area that I want to join between the 2 pieces. So that's all been slipped. I'm going to go ahead and score that. And don't worry too much about getting the foam dirty, because the foam can be washed out in the sink. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the wall. Now some of these forms are small, and I might only use one extruded part to go all the way around. This one's a little bit bigger, so I'm probably going to have to use 2 or 3. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of curves in here. I do not recommend starting or stopping in a corner. So I like to start kind of right in the middle, or maybe 2/3 in the way of a long curve. And this seems like a natural place to start. So when I place this, I'm not too worried about it fitting exactly. And I'm being very gentle in these areas. And if it cracks a little bit, I can add some water and fix that later. But I want this to go along as far as I possibly can. As you notice, I'm a little short. So I'm going to splice in a new piece. The one thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pottery knife and I'm going to make a cut here and a cut here. And those are going to be 45-degree angles. So before I add this little piece that I've already cut and set aside, I'm going to go ahead and cut this again at a 45-degree angle. So I'm holding my knife, not straight across, but add a little bit of an angle back towards me, and I'm going to cut straight down. And that seam where I join the new wall with the existing wall will hide very nicely. So I'm going to slip and score that fresh edge. And if any of the areas have dried out since I've been waiting, I can go ahead and do that as well. Scoring on that fresh piece, and I may have to trim this to fit. But I'm just going to, again, lightly put this on here, slowly bend it around. It's not perfect at this point, and I notice I have a little extra. So when I cut that, if I followed that curve right here, it would still be too long. So what I found is that if I take my knife and I draw a line out from here, from that edge, right there where my finger is, and if I cut from there, that is usually enough extra where it should join together perfectly, just like that. So that's a fresh edge. So I'm going to go ahead and score that. Join those two pieces together. And now I'm going to proceed to actually cleaning up the edges. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this over and show you the last step. So I'm coming back after I've gone ahead and attached the walls to the base. Now what I have is the base attached those walls really loosely. Now I want to show you another couple steps that are going to help me get this really tight and fit that wall to the base really nicely. So I'm going to prop this up so you can see this a little bit better. But now I'm going to go ahead and take this in my hand and push that wall down and work that back and forth with my fingers to really get that to attach. And this has since dried out a little bit, so I'm just going to add a little bit more slip. So again, back and forth, pushing my fingers together is really going to help that wall attach. And that's going to allow me to get those nice tight 90-degree angles on the corners and all the way around. So I do have some gaps, and I just push those few together. And this does take a little bit of finesse, some slow hands, patient, pushing that together until I have a really nice seam. If I ever notice any gaps, I can always add just a little bit more slip. I'm going to place this back in my form to do some finishing touches. Remember to slip, score, and work those areas back and forth, and I'm going to then let this dry a little bit to set up, and I can do some final touches. Now if I look on the back side, I do have quite a seam, so let me show you a little trick I've learned along the way. I've taken my roller and I'm going to push some pressure against the side of the wall and the base, going all the way around and really pushing those back together. I like the roller a lot because it spreads the pressure around a little bit more than my fingers. What I'm left with is a pretty rough but almost finished wood sling form. Now there is a little bit of a gap here. Now I could add a coil. That does refer back to my good, better, best conversation about when we join slabs together. But for this one, I've grabbed some wood modeling tools. This one has a nice little rounded edge, and that's going to work really well for me to get right in the corner and just compress that back and forth. I just want that to make sure that there's no gaps or something that I can see all the way through to the other side. And if there is, that's where I want to add a tiny little coil. Now, this is one case where I would add an extra coil just for stability's sake. It would be very, very small, and it would just fill right in here, and I could blend that back and forth, up into the wall and down into the base, and it would unify those two pieces much more than just what I'm doing at this moment. So, there you have it. This is the base without any handles or feet, and we'll get to talk about those requirements a little bit later. But from a demonstration standpoint, that's exactly where I'm going to stop. So, I hope you had a lot of fun watching me work today. I'm really excited about this project, and I can't wait to see the great ideas that you come up with. Pottery people, pottery on.